So 1/3 of Aussie homes could be 3D printed. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, and here's an article that I thought we'd have to have a look at, and a lot of people are referring me to this new technology about 3D printing homes. Now, I'm an architect and we've got a lot of experience with off-site volumetric modular construction. So, yeah, I'm very skeptical about claims like this, that we'll have 3D printed homes that'll be easily affordable and will just be starting to appear out of nowhere, low-cost, super cheap houses. And one reason, frankly, is the environmental and energy requirements of the building code. I think it's going to make it quite difficult to achieve all those code compliance issues. I mean, we already have changes to the building code coming in, which is going to drive up the cost of housing by about $30,000 a house. So, yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at this. This is from Mortgage Business. So 1/3 of homes could be 3D printed by 2030. I can't see that happening. Not a chance. Not in 8 years' time. Unless the construction apocalypse goes insane and we have so many builders collapse. That's the only way I can see this happening. An expert has predicted as much as 30% of houses in regional Australia will be constructed using 3D printing technology within the next 10 years. Even that I can't see happening, honestly, because you can have volumetric offsite construction and truck it in. Here's the thing, particularly when you're transporting volumetric buildings, and this is where, let's have a look over here. I mean, this school, this is an example of it where the classrooms are all built in little volume segments. Not this one, nope, that's retail, it's a restaurant. Big mining job here. This is a big office building on the mine, MIA, that's a bathhouse, and that was built in little sections, volumetric sections that was carried on a truck. Now, the advantage of that is you can build it here. I think it was built just on the Gold Coast and trucked out into, where was it? Dornier and Cavill Ridge, these examples. But the problem is you've got the transportation costs, you've got the craneage requirements, you've got the additional steel you need just for the transportation. There are all of these other costs associated with it. Whereas opposed to stick building on site, you don't have those costs. But on this site, an example, you don't want people working on site. You want to limit their time on there because it's also remote. There's all these other issues. So there's certain situations where volumetric construction works really well. And the school jobs, they want it done real quick over the holidays. Boom, in, out, done. That's where there's the advantage of that. So, there's a bit of give and take. Now, with this 3D construction or 3D printing, I instantly went to this guy here. Remember this? FBR innovation, the whole idea of the robotic brick block laying construction, listed on the ASX stock exchange. The idea is that you could have this technology just going out there and you don't need the labor, you don't need the brickies anymore. Fantastic. They're taking our jobs. Let's have a look at the share price of this one. There you go. I mean, look at that. It's tanked. 4 cents, 2 cents, 5 cents. The problem with this, particularly with the robot, is where's some pictures? Do there's some pictures? Hadrian X, is this the one? Is the space that you need for it. There we go. The space that you need, where to park it. And, doing that here in a, residential area is a lot easier than out in the middle of nowhere. And you can just get a bunch of lads putting bricks on too. So you've got to be skeptical about some of these things. So let's have a look at this. The climate in the red heart of Australia is among the toughest in the world. There is minimal shade, and temperatures fluctuate from -5 degrees Celsius in the winter to close to 50 degrees Celsius in the summer. Not only is it difficult to obtain conventional building materials in this region, but its extremely dry weather makes it unsuitable for traditional housing. Well, this is many of the issues they have, particularly with the remote housing provided for Indigenous communities. Just the equipment that they put in there can't handle the climate, the environment, even the water with all the minerals in it. The hot water systems break all the time. And then you get kids getting sick and getting eye illnesses because they can't wash because they don't have any hot water or any running water. It's hard to get maintenance out there. I think the question should be, why are we maintaining these communities in the middle of nowhere? Maybe there needs to be other options. According to Ahmed Mali, co-founder and chief executive of Australian 3D printing building and construction company Leighton, what many people do not realize is that 3D printing of homes and other buildings is already underway in Australia. In fact, we are building the first 3D Indigenous housing project in the world. Well, let's jump over and have a look at their website here. So, I mean, it's going a bit crazy. That's way too fast, that animation there. Okay, now what they're showing here, this is in a factory, guys. This is a prototype. You'll find people will often test these type of projects because they can get around all the building code requirements. Now, if we have a look, I mean, there you go. It's just concrete. The problem with this is, well, no, the advantage of it is it's robust. It's hard to damage, although people can. Is there any reinforcing in there? I mean, I would have to see. And getting all the equipment out in the middle of nowhere, trucking this out is going to be difficult too. Think about that. But also, concrete sucks for noise attenuation. If you've got, two buildings right next to each other, like a duplex or separate accommodation, to get more efficiencies, you can't just have the solid concrete anymore. You need to have all of these other insulative requirements. And you're probably still going to be sticking foam on the outside of this to meet the Section J environmental performance requirements. So it depends on where you are. Remember, in Australia, you've got to design every space like it's going to be air-conditioned. Particularly up north, you're going to want to. Let's have a look here. I mean, this is some of their projects. A moon thing, I don't know what that is. Here's the first 3D printed house, so you can see, I mean, okay. See, so the walls are printed, and then they're putting a conventional structure on top of it. I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, it looks shit, honestly. Yeah. Internally, do you want that? Compared to plasterboard? What they'll do is you'll print it like this, then you put some top hats on it, then you put plasterboard on it. You'll plaster it if you want it to look nice. But I guess maybe that's the style, that's the gimmick that they want in a remote hotel. But yeah, so I mean let's have a look. What are they showing here? So I mean, yeah. What are the insulative properties of it? You're gonna get all the cool sucked out of it. So if you're adding additional layers to it, and you've got the labor for that, you might as well get some stud out there rather than taking all that out. I mean, that's from Bunnings, those things. So, yeah. The project is currently underway in Australia's Northern Territory and involves the building of a number of homes using 3D building and construction printing technology. Mr. Marhill believes 3D printing is about to transform the Australian construction industry, following the lead of other countries across the globe. I would be really surprised if it does. I'd hope we'd need changes in the legislation to allow it, and the building code to allow its adoption and its use. I mean, we want competition, definitely. Maybe we could. In 2016, the UAE became the first nation in the world to promote 3D printing in its building industry, establishing a 25% goal by 2030. Other nations are imitating the practice. Okay. I mean, UAE, they've got some stupid projects over there. Look at the line, what they're proposing. I mean, yeah. In the US and America's Makes Forward initiative aims to promote the growth of additive manufacturing. The program will see the US government and international corporations support 3D printing activities in a variety of ways. With 3D printers, construction jobs that used to take months or even years to finish can now be done in just a few days. Mr. Marhill highlighted that the breakthrough 3D concrete printing technology decreases construction waste by 60%, manufacturing time by 70%, labor expenses by 80% when compared to traditional construction methods. Well, it's because you're not finished, mate. Okay? We're looking at your render here. It's not lined. You can't just have a bare concrete wall, guys. It's like you can't have a bare blockwork wall now in most projects in most areas because you're not going to meet the energy efficiency requirements. You're going to have to go and get some insulation and stick it to the outside. Now, this is what I had to do on government public housing because to meet the energy efficiency requirements, and this was years ago, and now it's just gotten worse. They're now up to 7 stars. So, I mean, think about it. You hire your concrete truck, you build, 3D print these walls. I mean, compare concrete to other materials. Right now, we're stick building with timber. Timber's completely recyclable material. It's captured sunlight. It's awesome. You can grow it and reuse it. You can modify it a lot easier. What about this thing? Say you want to cut a hole in it. You're gonna have to go there with the concrete bloody drill and drill a hole. It's gonna be a pain. You're gonna have to jackhammer it out. Maybe I'm just too old and skeptical. I mean, I've got a 3D printer. I think it's awesome. I use 3D scanning all the time. I do all my architectural projects. Everything is in BIM modeling. If we have a look at, what did we do? We did an indigenous housing proposal years ago. I mean, this is it here. And this is a volumetric modular system. The idea, you can't see it. The idea was that they'd be built down here and trucked up far north, and you'd only have certain assembly done on site. You wouldn't build the things on site, but you'd want to have something so they could maintain it. We had multiple accesses and egress. We had ventilation going through the whole thing, and we had a space underneath where people could live a lot of the time. You're not going to be able to build this. You're not going to be able to build this guy. Oops, wrong project. This one here with the space underneath with a 3D printer. It's not going to happen. And often, in these other climates, you want to have the space underneath the house because that's where you live. It's comfortable. So I can't see a third of it happening. Studies have also revealed that the technology can increase construction site efficiency by 60%, guaranteeing cost savings 300 to 500 times, shorter execution times, and an 80% total reduction in monetary expenses in concrete construction without formwork. Okay, yeah, I mean, there's going to be applications for it, don't get me wrong, but I can't see it being, widely used on many houses. I would be really surprised. With this data in hand, it's difficult to deny that an increasing number of individuals, governments, and businesses will adopt for 3D printed houses and buildings over conventional construction techniques. Well, how often are people building straw bale houses? Hardly ever. How often are people building mud houses? Hardly ever. You've got to remember, what dictates construction is what we can get insurance for. So think about that. There's certain products I can't specify on my jobs. It's to do with flammable cladding because my insurance won't cover me for it. There you go. And that's all changed in the last few years. They can now construct a 3-bedroom residence in as little as 3 days. Yeah, well, you can already do that if you get a volumetric modular one off the shelf and put it there. The method involves printing the parts of the structure in 2 days and putting them together on the 3rd day. Well, what about wiring? What about plumbing? What about site works? What about gardening? What about getting your roof there? You're going to get your roof done and your trusses done in 1 day? While work is currently restricted to more isolated areas, he expects that it won't be long before you start to see the building of 3D printed homes in suburb areas around the country as well. Why pay a builder $800,000 for a new home when a 3D printed home could cost a fraction of this, he concluded. So, I mean, there we go. Let's have a talk about this, guys. Fantastic to see innovation in the construction sector. It's what we need. But construction's a very slow-moving beast here in Australia. I had to watch a 4-hour lecture on the building code changes, and it's just adding more cost, guys. Just adding more cost to construction. I nearly fell asleep. So I can't see it going as crazy as people hope. You've got to remember there's still costs associated with all of this. But we'll have to see, guys. It's not going to be a third of houses, not even in remote areas. That's the joke. He's dreaming there. Good on him. Good on him for selling it. Good on him for getting the dream going. But we saw our robot, a brick block laying robot, that hasn't really shaken up the world, has it? So, yeah, we'll have to see, guys. Remember, as well, you got to get the concrete in these remote areas. Okay? You got to do that. You gotta what? You're gonna take it by bags? You're gonna take concrete trucks out there when you can take a ute with building materials on it and build a structure out of that too. That's pretty convenient. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. Have you ever worked with 3D printing? Have you done it in construction? I've used it for little knickknacks and models and things, but never for full construction. As always, thanks for watching. Check out my other channels, HeiseBim and HeiseSays International, for other topics and contents I discuss. And if you're a fan and want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. Financially on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links on Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve or AussieBroadband, buying our pocket squares or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. There's one thing to consider. With the transportable buildings, look at a video I did, like my 3rd ever video about auction, all dongers for sale from the auctions. Look at those. That could be an option.